The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, recounts the epic struggle of Link Tatia, the cross-dressing elf boy who yearns to find and forcibly impregnate the haughty, Tourette syndrome-suffering Firefly that abandoned him at the end of the previous game. As a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time, many players expected Majora's Mask to answer such important lingering questions as, what happened to the alternate timeline Link abandoned when Zelda sent him back to the past? Where exactly did Navi go? And perhaps, most importantly of all, will Malon let Link suck them titties for about a minute now that all of his heroic deeds have been undone? Interestingly, Majora's Mask rejects those questions and substitutes Hyrule with its own original reality instead. Terminia is a metaphorical dreamscape where kindly old ladies reward you for helping them with traditional Muslim headwear. Furious radishes threaten to turn innocent bystanders into Brazilian soup, metaphorical manifestations of men my age who should be doing something more productive with their time than playing this game, attempt to sell you lewd Sonichu fan art! Synchronized sluts with soaked napkins on their butts become dyslexic and dance with Link after he gets a little head instead of the other way around. And the moon does an earth-shatteringly accurate impression of a Clinton looking at Haiti. Instead of continuing Ocarina of Time in a strictly linear fashion, Majora's Mask poses further mysteries that persist to this day, such as, why didn't Link just utilize his superior intellect to paint the tower in the center of Clocktown to resemble a gigantic penis? That way, when the moon is about to swallow the tower, everyone can point up at it and call it a goblin-faced cock-swallowing ace. By golly, that moon would have been so flummoxed it would sally forth right back into space. And even simpler than that, instead of letting the moon crash into the planet, why not just have everyone go to the other side of the planet and push on the ground at the last second, thereby causing the planet to crash into the moon, destroying it instead? Why wouldn't Link just stand atop the clock tower, waiting for the moon to crash while holding up the Deku mask? Then the moon would transform into a tremendous Deku nut, thereby allowing Link to bust the biggest nut in recorded history since that one time I tripped at the deli and landed on a pickle over the entire world like some kind of Hyrulean Genghis Khan. At the very least, he could have held up the Zora mask, turning the comet into a harmless gigantic fish that would allow all the women of the world to quiff in peace due to the overwhelming scent of fish already in the air. But perhaps I'm getting a little ahead of myself. During The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, players will explore not only dungeons and caves, but also the stages of grief, the unavoidable encroachment of death, and the sudden realization that a treasure chest isn't the only type of chest to treasure. Sure, the thought of playing the part of a shape-shifting, time-traveling, quantum-leaping rapist may seem appealing at first, but as you fail over and over again, you become mired in dread, and your yam bag begins to ache. This digitized descent into madness begins with Link desperately searching for Navi because he has become so accustomed to her telling him exactly what to do that he is both literally and metaphorically lost without her. Instead of this dear departed friend, Link encounters a duck-lipped Ethiopian scarecrow and his two codependent butt sluts. These rat bastard gypsy fucks rob Link blind after causing him to be thrown from his horse. Little did they realize that their victim was one twisted vertebrae away from this game being called The Legend of Christopher Reeve's The Colostomy Bag of Woe. Although, soon after being thrown from Epona, Link becomes a vegetable, though perhaps The Legend of Terry Schiavo, The Blank Gaze of Time, would have been a more appropriate title. Fortunately, with the help of a pointy-shoed Eldritchian horror, who moves the same way that Captain Kirk talks, and fears the moon because it secretly contains his unacknowledged bastard children, Link is able to regain his former shape. the Skull Kid who attacked Link, traumatized so badly by 4 giants from Bubble Bath Land slapping him in the face with their gigantic pricks that he winds up trembling in the fetal position in Mother Nature's shower like some teenage girl from a 1990s after-school special rains calamity upon Terminia in the form of a moon that appears to be scared shitless at the thought of its own impending impact, an invisible giant with Altoid's breath, butch lesbians who steal Yoko literal Ono's eggs since their own eggs rotted decades earlier, and milk-thirsty aliens who want to snake their elongated ET fingers up a Malin clone's mud hatch, proving that Majora's Mask contains the worst consequences for missing a cycle that doesn't involve a long conversation with the missus, followed by a somber trip to the nearest coat hanger emporium. Link is then tasked with plagiarizing both R.L. Stine's novel The Haunted Mask and the Bill Murray film Groundhog's Day in order to prevent complete global smasheration. To this end, Link must assume the identities of the dead, including the literal seed of the Deku Butler's loins, whom can skip across water like Jesus Christ's gay cousin, show his nuts to Jews without fear of retaliation, has deadlier spit than Magic Johnson, and the most powerful, flowery helicopter ever beheld, since that one time I got a rosebud stuck to the head of my penis while hands-free fanning off my morbidly obese date's face after an especially sultry round of lovemaking in the reception area of a flower shop. This starchy stoic acts heroic in order to cross the deadly swamp-ass swamp, defeat an Ooga Booga boss that is so similar to a real-life African warrior that it is completely covered in flies, and jam his Deku stick in this glorified knothole full of splinters. Though I am left wondering at times, if Deku Link's Deku horns are composed of the same Deku material as the rest of his Deku body, does that mean he's Deku blowing himself every time he plays a song? Majora's Mask notoriously raises many similar questions. Less straightforward than its predecessor, Majora's Mask makes the player wonder if Link is dreaming, or dead, or if the land of Terminia even exists at all. While Link literally wakes up at the end of his dream journey in Link's Awakening, there is no lifting of the veil within the confines of Majora's Mask, and those questions are never answered. As a result, players never know if Keifi's marriage to the town's resident cum-bucket persists once Link has left Terminia, and believe you me, this version of Anju is especially lascivious. Not only did she remove the bathroom door from her house so family members and patrons alike could watch her dropping hot logs, but she installed a retard in the poo chamber to cleanse her poo chamber with his gigantic cat-strangling fist. She then drilled a glory hole in the wall between a guest room and her room, and after you spend more time following around a prepubescent boy than Kevin Spacey at a New Year's Eve party in order to reunite Anju with her betrothed, she kicks you to the curb to die alone while she and Keifi engage in one last forbidden squirt in the skirt before getting squashed into the dirt. And the Degeneracy is not limited to residents of Clocktown alone. Terminia's Gorons are dying. Not of the endless winter that entombs them, but of their own sheer stupidity. They are apparently too inbred to bundle up in blankets, put on some goddamn pants, or use their already lit torches to light a campfire. Instead, Link must assume the persona of a naked bongo-slapping hippie, roll around like a fat person from one of my Europe novels, and stab a goat in the ass like a lonely jihadist in order to unfreeze the Goron's mountains. Once you finish trading gold dust to a gimp in exchange for a glimpse at his caretaker's gigantic bologna-sliced nipples, you'll get to visit Romani Ranch. There, you'll get to help a weirdo's baby cock grow, fight the urge to commit unspeakable acts against Cremia at Thord Point before using the Song of Time to destroy the evidence, and encounter the incredibly off-putting Terminian counterpart to American actress Sarah Jessica Parker. Together with Sarah, Link is imbued with the incredible ability to pass over 4-foot-tall fences allowing him to access the dirtiest beach this side of Atlantic City, New Jersey. There, Link will encounter a man so stupid that he somehow managed to drown despite being a fish, play the Song of Mercy Kills in order to steal that guy's guitar, then bury him 6 inches under the sand like a cat turd. And while it might be natural for a godless fishman monstrosity to perish after spending hours jumping through hoops in pursuit of young beaver and finally creaming on that steaming caviar, I wonder, is it normal to catch this unfortunately non-literal bass player in his dressing room with an underage groupie? And if Link visits that dead fishman's girlfriend in his fishman form after visiting Romani Ranch, should she become suspicious after finding that Link's fishy fingers smell like beef? After harpooning a turtle in the ass, Link can then brave the depths of an elaborate sewage treatment facility, where he can encounter a disturbingly metaphorical trio of phallic bosses, including an ovary, goo, and a gigantic gaping set of fish lips the size of a hallway. After rinsing the salt from his fish balls, Link then heads to the desert to claim a set of masks that will allow him to remove lingering curses, grant the vigilant dead long-deserved repose, and scare the ever-loving shit out of a slack-jawed retard. Link's reward for acting as a literal messiah to this cursed kingdom is a song that enables him to pose corpses around like Ed Gein on date night. At this point, only a single dungeon remains separating Link with his destiny on the moon. Unless, of course, you're a little bitch who wants to cheese the final boss using the Fierce Deity mask. And frankly, ending a game that explores the existential dread of death with a fight against worms, then a heart that ceases beating after you kill it, is perfectly fitting. Overall, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask is a highly concentrated crystallization of the Ocarina of Time formula that innovated how dungeons were explored and NPCs were interacted with in ways that the series has failed to better or even match to this day. Probably because they know that no matter how bad the games get, you stupid motherfuckers will keep buying them.